Aryan was born in a world where every day was a struggle. He felt from childhood that life would not give him an easy path. He grew up in the shadows of big cities among noise and cold streets. But in his heart, there was always a dream to become someone more than just a person who survives. He believed that inside him, there was a spark capable of lighting even the darkest night, and life decided to test him, because when he grew up and finally found his love, a woman named Eliana, when he had the chance to build a family and a small home where the laughter of children could be heard, all of this was destroyed in an instant by betrayal and loss. Eliana was the meaning of life for Aryan. He looked at her and believed that the world could be warm and bright, even when coldness and indifference surrounded him. He made plans with her. They dreamed of their own home of children running around the yard and laughing with happiness. But fate struck when he least expected it. One morning he woke up and saw that there was no one next to him. Eliana left, leaving only a short note that contained no explanations, no warmth, and not even pain. Only cold words that everything was over and that she would not return. Aryan stood with the note in his hands and could not understand how everything fell apart so quickly. Yesterday he was a man with love and hope, and today he was left alone. Among the silent walls that still remembered her voice and laughter, it seemed to him that the ground had fallen from under his feet. He searched for answers, but there were none. The people he trusted turned away, friends disappeared, those who promised support vanished as if they had never been there. The work collapsed. He lost everything he had built over the years and was left with nothing. Only himself and the pain in his heart and the thought that life had no meaning at night. He wandered the streets empty and hollow in his chest. There was a hole, and in his eyes, only emptiness. He lowered his head so that people would not see his brokenness. But even if they did, they would have passed by because the world does not love the weak. And it was during those dark nights when he walked alone through wind and rain that a new force began to grow in his heart. A force born of despair. A force that arises when everything is lost and there is nothing left to lose. He woke up every morning without strength. Sometimes he did not even want to open his eyes because he knew the day would bring nothing but emptiness. He walked the same streets looked into, shop windows where other people laughed, bought things and built their lives while he walked like a shadow that had lost its meaning. He stopped tasting food. He stopped seeing colors. Everything became gray and cold. He remembered Eliana, her voice, her smile, her eyes that always gave him faith, and those memories cut his heart like a blade, because now they belonged to the past and would never return. He tried to find work, but he was rejected. One after another, he tried to talk to people, but everyone turned away. He sat in dark rooms and listened to the silence pressing on his chest. He thought that maybe it would be better to disappear, to no longer feel this pain. But in the darkest moment, when it seemed there was no way out, he heard a quiet voice within. It was no one's voice. It was his own soul saying, "Rise, because you are still alive. Rise, because your path is only beginning." And then Aryan took the first step. He rose from the floor where he had sat for nights. He went out into the cold dawn and told himself that he would no longer let darkness control his life. He knew it would be hard, that the world would not greet him with open arms. But he decided that he would fight even if he had to start from scratch, even if he had to go through pain and humiliation, because it is better to fight than to rot in darkness. Aryan realized that he could not wait for a miracle, because miracles do not come to those who sit in darkness. He had to become his own miracle. He went to the city and took the first job offered to him. It was hard, dirty work where his hands became calloused and his body ached every evening. But he did not complain, because this was his path. He worked where others refused. He did more than was required. He lifted heavy things. He washed dirty floors. He performed the hardest tasks and did it with silent strength that people noticed. because inside his heart burned the thought that every day brought him closer to a new life. He began training his body. He woke up at dawn and ran through the streets, even when others slept. Even when rain soaked his face, he did push-ups to the point of pain. He worked his muscles, and with each day, he became stronger. He took books from libraries and read at night because he understood that true strength is not only in the body, but also in the mind. He learned discipline. He wrote goals on paper and looked at them every day. He was building a new self, brick by brick. Gradually, he began to feel that something inside him was changing. His eyes were no longer empty. They held fire. His step became firm, his voice confident. He no longer ran from the world. He walked toward it. And though the world did not yet recognize him, he knew it was only a matter of time because the strength he was building inside could not go unnoticed. Aryan felt that his work was not in vain, and that every day he spent fighting brought him closer to a new life. He found a small business in need of help and offered his hand. He worked without days off, without sleep, but with passion, because he felt that here he could realize himself. Gradually, he learned to lead people. He learned to organize processes. He learned to take responsibility and see the results of his actions. His dream of having his own business began to come alive again, and his heart was filled with hope. Thanks to his persistence and wisdom, the business began to bring the first profits, small but important, because they proved that he could win. He met people who inspired him, and whom he inspired. He realized that the world is not only about loss, but also about opportunities, and he began to use every chance that appeared. He invested knowledge, time, and strength, and saw how his life transformed from chaos into a path leading to success. But he never forgot the darkness from which he came. He remembered the pain, the loss of Eliana, and the loneliness of nights, and this gave him strength and patience. He realized that every victory is not important in itself. It is important who you become in the process, because true victory is in the heart and soul, and not in the outside world. Aryan was no longer the man who sat in darkness and wept over losses. He became a leader who leads people. He started his own business from scratch and turned it into a company that helped others and gave jobs to those who had lost hope. He spoke to people with respect and firmness. He taught them discipline and self-discipline. He inspired with his example. Everyone who saw his changes wanted to become better, and the world noticed his strength not through money, but through the energy of victory. He created around him. Aryan met new people who became his partners and friends. He opened new horizons, and every success added to his confidence. He no longer feared difficulties because he understood that any challenge is a chance to become stronger. He helped those who fell and showed that even after the deepest fall, one can rise and shine. He remembered Eliana and sometimes thought of her, but not with regret, but as part of his past that made him who he had become. People began to respect him for his strength of character, for his wisdom and resilience. He became a legend in his circle and an example for those seeking a path in darkness. His name became a symbol of victory and courage, and everyone who heard his story felt that everything is possible. Because if Aryan could rise from the ruins, anyone can. Aryan stood at the top of what he had created. His company grew. He became influential and strong. People respected him not for money, but for going from ruins to triumph. But the true victory was not in external success. It was in himself, in his heart, which learned to forgive, which learned to love, which learned to appreciate life as it is. He realized that the meaning is not in having everything, but in being strong when you fall into darkness and helping those around him. He began teaching youth, sharing knowledge and supporting those seeking change. He became an example not only for his city, but for everyone who heard his story. Sometimes he remembered Eliana, but now not with regret, but with gratitude, because her leaving gave him the chance to open a new life. He realized that loss and pain are not the end, but the beginning of a new path, that even in darkness one can find light, that true strength is born from struggle and patience, and that if you believe in yourself, Nothing can stop you. Arian looked at the city from the height of his office. He saw the lights flickering in the dark and knew that each of these lights could become a candle of hope if people are not afraid to rise after falling and move forward. He felt peace in his heart and pride for himself and those he inspired. He realized that life is not about avoiding falls, but about being able to rise and shine even when darkness seems unstoppable. He realized that his story became a legend that would live on and inspire for many years, and so Arian completed his journey not only as a man who achieved success, but as a symbol that even after the darkest night, dawn always comes, and that true greatness is not in avoiding difficulties but in going through them and remaining human.